He steps into the tunnel. He is wounded. He is exhausted. The air down here is incredibly heavy. It is damp, clinging to his skin, and the walls seem to expand and contract in the dark, breathing like a massive sick animal in its final hours. Suddenly, the ceiling splinters. A thick, jagged root bursts from the earth above. It tears into his shoulder. It rips the flesh wide open. Pain, hot and blinding, flashes behind his eyes. He staggers, pressing a torn, filthy piece of his own clothing against the wound. He tries desperately to stop the blood, but it spills down his arms anyway, dropping onto the muddy ground with a rhythmic, hollow sound. He looks ahead. The tunnel stretches out in the darkness, long, winding, and uncertain. It feels like a memory he can no longer fully grasp. He drags his feet forward until the tight passage opens up. He reaches a tall, narrow room, untouched by time. Right in the middle of the stone floor there is a small chest. Its lid rests half open. It looks as if someone had been digging through it and fled in a sudden panic. He approaches it carefully. Every step echoes. He pushes the heavy lid back and looks inside. Lying in the dust, there is a book. He picks it up. At first glance, it looks like a simple family album. Its cover is worn, its pages are stiff. He opens to the very first page, and suddenly the faces spill back into his empty mind. He sees his father. He sees his mother. He sees the bright afternoon of his wedding day, and the wide, innocent smiles of his two little daughters staring back at the camera. All the memories he thought were gone forever come rushing back. Each one is perfectly tied to a photograph pinned to the paper. But as his trembling fingers keep turning the pages, something strange begins to happen. The faces begin to change. They don't stay still. Some of the people grow old right in front of his eyes. He watches their smooth skin wrinkle and fold. He watches the bright spark in their eyes dim into a hollow gray. Other faces simply fade, as if they are being washed away by the invisible current of time. One by one, they disappear, they decay. They blur into absolutely nothing. But there is one exception. Among the dissolving pages, a single photograph remains completely untouched. It is his father. While the rest of his family fades away, that one face remains perfectly still, unshaken by the rot. A cold red settles in his stomach. He realizes he is not just looking at the past memories. He is watching the inevitable fate of his family. It is a fate entirely soaked in disappearance, in death, and in absolute decay. Unable to watch any longer, he tucks the heavy book under his arm and walks away. But as he leaves the first room, strange tension grips him. He is caught between two walls. He cannot reconcile the absolute rot he sees around him with the sudden, impossible sparks of happiness sprinkling over his mind. His emotions are tearing him in half. His feelings border precariously between the brutal reality of what he sees and what he desperately wants to believe about the nature of decay. He steps into the second chamber. There, waiting in the center of the shadows, sits the old gramophone. It is still. It is silent, until his bloody hand reaches out and touches it. With a sharp scratch, the needle drops onto the record. Suddenly, the dead room is alive. The audio doesn't just play. It brings the past into the room with him. As he turns his eyes around the chamber, he actually sees them. He sees his mother laughing in a sunlit kitchen that isn't really there. He sees his daughters playing happily. Their phantom footsteps running across the cold stone floor. And then, rising calmly above all this beautiful noise, comes one distinct sound. The steady, unwavering voice of his father. To him, this voice is a monument. It is the ultimate anchor, holding his fragile mind together. He believes in his father's unchangeable nature with a desperate, ironclad certainty. Just hearing that voice, seeing that presence, wraps around him like a blanket. but their comfort shatters. With a violent disruption of the needle, the illusion cracks. The audio skips and distorts. His mother's warm laugh abruptly warps, growing coarse, hollow, and terribly distant. He watches in absolute horror as his beautiful daughters age right before his eyes. Their youth melts away in seconds. Their wither grow older and older until they simply perish into dust on the stone floor. Panic seizes his throat. The room is a nightmare of rapid decay. But in the midst of that commotion and fright, he looks wildly across the room. He sees his father standing there, perfectly untouched, completely unchanged by the horror unfolding round him. He is a pillar of absolute defiance against that rot. He clings to that sight, but the machine is dying. The gramophone winds down. The needle scrapes to a brutal halt. It ceases to operate completely, and instantly, everything turns pitch black. When the darkness finally lifts, the world has shifted. He finds himself completely trapped. His legs refuse to move. He is incapacitated, entirely deprived of any power to resume his walking. He is paralyzed in the dark, and worse, the floor beneath him begins to flood. Dark water rises rapidly. Flowers half dead, withered, and drained of all their colors, float lazily on the murky surface. The muddy water rises to his knees, then it reaches his waist. The cold water steeps into his bandage. His shoulder wound burns with a furious agony. He looks down at his own trembling hands, his chest, his legs submerged in the filth. He feels his own body changing. He is weakening. It feels as if his very flesh is starting to decompose, melting away to become a permanent part of this rotting underground. His hands lose their strength. The heavy book slips from his grip. He watches helplessly as it falls into the dark water. The liquid instantly swallows the pages. The ink begins to run. The smiling faces of his family melt into the muddy surface, stretching into the grotesque smears of black and grey. One by one, his memories dissolve into the water. Names wash away, dates vanish. Whole events disappear from his mind as the pages disintegrate. Everything is leaving him. Everything except for one single memory. His father. He holds onto the absolute firmness of this belief. He is convinced that even this dying underground cannot touch the man who built his world. His father is the eternal constant. Before the book sinks completely, the shifting water flips open the very last page. There, miraculously untouched by the mud, a single image remains. It is an old man. He is fragile. He looks almost corpse-like. His eyes are staring furiously back at him through the lens. For a brief, terrifying moment, the wounded man doesn't recognize the face, but then it hits him. It hits him harder than the root that tore his shoulder. This is his father. Not the strong, steady man he remembers from the gramophone, but the man as he truly was at the very end of his timeline. Old and exhausted, standing precariously on the razor thin line between life and death. As he stares into those familiar eyes, the dark tunnel around him begins to fade. The rising water, the rotting walls, the suffocating smell of mold, everything simply fades away. He is left entirely alone with that one image, that one undeniable presence. Despite the overwhelming decay of the world, despite the burning pain in his shoulder, and despite the tragic loss of all his other memories, he feels a strange sensation rising inside his chest. It is a quiet, stubborn joy. Through the pain he smiles, because he knows that in the middle of this dying, rotting world, and in the middle of his own disintegrating body, one pure thing has survived the decay, the desperate desire to see his father again. And as the darkness closes in, that desire becomes the very last light in this underground passage, a passage where everything else has begun to rot.